this platform yet, right? Until we go through the training. Like I haven't missed anything in terms of getting this software.
No, as far as I know, you haven't missed anything until it goes live. But it is available. I mean, the Hilton site has been up for quite some time. So as you start using the
so you log in through you log in through the Hilton platform?
You will log in through the Hilton platform. So it's a cloud-based system that's accessible from a browser.
So
sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so it's on the lobby.
Yeah, you can log in through Chrome or Internet Explorer, but for the most part, it is Chrome is the preferred browser to use. And the link to the browser is.
But our user information hasn't been distributed yet. I haven't seen that.
I'm not sure if it has been distributed yet, so I don't know who the iTrak administrator is, but you will get your credentials to log into the system.
Okay, fair enough. We'll just kind of.
Yeah, I know it's a little difficult if you don't have access to the system, but typically this is the link that you would log into to the Hilton site.
Okay.
Just make sure that your pop-up blocker is disabled for this site, as it does open a pop-up window that will take you to this login screen. All right, so for this purpose, I'm just going to log in as my test account, which will take us to the training session. Now, the user accounts are set up with the first initial of your first name and your last name as your username, and the password is the same. So when you log in, it will prompt you to enter a new password.
Oh, okay. So my username. Okay. So that's the default. Gotcha.
That's the default. All right. So when you log in, you will see these modules to the left, with the exception maybe of the administration, depending on the level of access or role or permission that you're assigned. You may not be able to get into the administration portion. That's where all the user accounts are set up, all the permissions, and anything behind the scenes that is iTrak related is set up through the administration module.
Okay.
So, but for the most part, you will have access to these modules to the left.
Okay.
All right, and also when you log into iTrak, it depends on what page. The last page that you visited before logging out is where you would end up when you log back in. However, there is a home page section or screen in iTrak that displays 4 different windows, which is basically a snapshot of the last 7 days of activity, depending on what you want to display. So daily log, I'm not sure if you can see that. The daily log, the incident file reporting are the 2 main ones that everyone uses. So, but you can have, you can change the display depending on what you want to see. You can also display up to 4 different panels, as you can see here, or display only 1. So to change this setting, you go into Tools, Set Up Home Page, and this is where you would select the items that you want to display in each panel. So when you click on the drop down, you can select the one that you want to see.
Okay.
And changing these settings will enable or disable the panels. Okay, the purpose of the home page is so that if you want to see what's going on without having to go individually into these modules here, but it only displays the last 7 days of activities. But if you want to go in depth into, say, for instance, the daily log or the incident, you can go into these individual modules that you see on the left. All right, so the daily log is basically used to perform any day-to-day functions, anything that don't require any further investigation, just something that you want to record. For example, if you notice a broken light fixture as you're walking through the Hilton property, you can report that and create a daily log for that item, and that way you can have it recorded in your system and have someone investigate that particular occurrence. All right, so when you go into the daily log or any of these modules, it will be displayed in a grid format similar to an Excel spreadsheet, where each headings, when you click it, it will sort depending on the item that you select. It makes it easier for you to search and sort specific items, because as time progresses, you may have hundreds of records, and it makes it easier for you to locate specific items.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so to create a new daily log, it's basically filling in the blanks, and you're selecting items from your drop-down list. So your daily log screen looks something like this, where you have the daily log number is empty or blank at the moment since you haven't saved it, but as soon as you save the record, it will assign it a number.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the date and time when it occurred, the property, depending on what property you're in or at, the default will be displayed in the property field here.
Okay.
All right, so under location, this will be the location at your property. So anything that is within your property, could be the hotel lobby, check-in desk, hotel floors, guest floors, etc. It will be shown in the location drop-down. So you're basically just selecting these items from the drop-down.
Okay.
If there's any items that's related to the main location, it will be displayed under the sub-location drop-down. So for example, elevators as your main location. In your sub-location, it could be elevator 1, elevator 2, 3, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the topics, these are all, when the Hilton property was set up, they set up global properties, which means that each of these items are available, or the most common drop-downs to each of the Hilton properties is able to select. So you have all these items here.
Okay.
And then in your synopsis screen, you're just typing in a brief description of the daily log entry that you're using or that you're capturing. And once you're completed, once you've entered all the necessary items or data in your daily log, when you hit the save button, and also when you see items that are in red, these are all mandatory fields, and it requires that you enter something in it. Otherwise, you will get this warning message here. So since I didn't have anything in sub-location, it prompted me to enter something. So when I hit save now, it will save the record. And you'll notice that it has assigned a daily log number. So iTrak assigns it's a random set of numbers. The next available number on the database is what iTrak will assign. But for the most part, the prefix for daily log is DL, followed by the year, and iTrak generates these numbers right here. So it goes in a sequential format. So the next available number will be assigned.
Okay.
And once you're done, close it, and it will add it to the list of items. Now, if you need to escalate this and create an incident based on this item, you can go and click on the Create Incident button, which will then open up the incident file reporting screen. From there, you can enter a more detailed list of data. You can capture more entries in your incident. All right, so when you do escalate a daily log into an incident, it will take all the information that was written or captured in the daily log, and it will port it over to the incident report. So
Okay.
there's your data log number initially, location and sublocation. The incident file number has not been assigned until you save the record. And then from here, you can select the incident type that's specific to this particular incident. It could be an altercation, and if there's anything specific related to the main incident type, it will open up the field down below, and if it falls into a specific category, you can select that item as well. And you can also put a category description.
Okay. So did they kind of go through a synopsis of what type of things are we to record? Again, I haven't looked at all the descriptors or anything like that, but is this for every guest complaint? Is it only for liable issues? Do you know at this point, or?
It's basically for anything that you want to record. The idea of the incident file is it will allow you to capture as much data as you possibly can, especially if it's related to a medical emergency or an accident or a slip and fall. It allows your personnel and add them as participants, and they can enter their notes, their comments into the incident file. They can do that through the narrative section. For example, if Officer 1 created this record, he or she saves this record, and Officer 2 goes in and add their notes, they can put that into the narrative. So it allows you to capture as much data as possible. It also protects yourself and protects the Hilton property in terms of anything that may turn into a litigation type incident.
Okay.
All right, so in addition to this narrative window here, there could be 10 items. You can scroll up and down, but if you go into anything that you enter inside this narrative field or section, will also be displayed in the narrative tab. So it just gives you a bigger screen or bigger section for you to view the notes that has been entered. In your participants tab, anyone that is involved in this incident can be added as participants. When you click on participants, you hit the add button. If it's a surveillance or security staff that's involved in an incident, you can select them as personnel. These are all different profiles that you can collect. Personnel being everyone that works at the Hilton property. Subjects are hotel guests, your customers, any patrons, anyone that is outside of the Hilton property that walks into your property can be considered a subject.
Right, because they don't have a profile.
Yeah, so the profiles can be created or they may already exist. But for the most part, the personnel, it depends on what property you're at. We can add these names into the list. Contacts are third-party vendors, any maintenance companies that come in, elevator maintenance, food and beverage companies can be considered as contacts, which they don't necessarily fall under the subject category. It just allows you to differentiate between the two individual profiles.
Okay.
So anyone that's involved in an incident, you can select them as participants from any of these databases. Okay, so, and you can also select the name of the person. You can type in their first name if they already exist in the system, and just select the appropriate name, and they will be added as participants in an incident. Now, the media tab is where you would import pictures. If you're creating an incident report where there's a room damage or any property damage involved, you can take the pictures of the damage that was made and import it into the media tab. You can add it from a camera, or if it's saved onto a USB stick, you can add these files. And you can also import PDF files, Word documents into the media tab. Now, since we've escalated the data log into an incident, that record will be attached to reference that specific record. In iTrak, it creates a cross-reference on any items or any reports that are related to each other. It just allows you to access these records easily, as opposed to having to go through the data log, looking for the data log number, sorting through the records. It automatically will assign it or reference that record in an incident report. Savings and losses. If you're recording a property damage, that would be recorded in the savings and loss, and click on the add button down at the bottom here and select the type of loss. So if there's a fire damage, you're reimbursing a guest, theft, etc. That would be considered a loss, and just enter the value of the damage, and you can enter a description as well. In addition to entering in the report details, the synopsis, and the narrative, there is also a supplemental entry, which will then allow your staff to add additional notes pertaining to this particular incident. You hit the add button. This will save the record before you add the incident. It will now assign it an incident report number. The narrative is mandatory here. So I'll just create a dummy record. So we're adding a supplemental entry. Similar to the narrative, it creates a date and timestamp of the entries that are added into the report. So basically, the more data you collect when you're creating an incident, it covers your staff as well as your property when it does come to a point where there's anyone involved in any type of litigation.
Mm-hmm.
There are also built-in forms within the iTrak system. For example, if you're capturing an accident report, there are accident reports built in. If it's a medical report, there's a medical run sheet that you can fill out where you can enter any type of medication that has been administered. If it's an allergic reaction, if you can also indicate if an EpiPen was involved, or and also the environmental conditions at the time, especially if it's a slip and fall You can even capture the type of shoes that the patron is wearing at the time, if there's any water or anything related to that accident. So the more detailed you are when you're capturing your data will help you with the incident report process. There's also custom forms that can be added depending on if they have been uploaded. These are forms that are designed specifically to say if there's any ban forms of any kind. But you can ban patrons or individuals, especially if they cause any type of issues. If someone is found loitering or causing any kind of disturbances, you can tag them as you can watch these individuals, or you can ban them completely from your properties. And sometimes there are ban forms that are created, customized forms that are created, not necessarily ones that are built into iTrak. These are specialized forms that you can upload into your incident. And there's also a document control where you can share specific records or a specific incident. The person that creates this record will be the owner of this report, but you can also assign ownership to someone else if you want to transfer ownership of this report. And you can share the record specifically to a user or within a rule. The rules are set up with permissions. That the permissions are basically items that you can and cannot do within the iTrak system. So they, in iTrak, you can group people depending on the level of access that they have. So you can share that with a specific role. So everyone that belongs to a specific role can access this record. But for the most part, incident reports are accessible by everyone, and they can also edit any entries. But they can also be set up so that you can only edit your own, and they can view other records, but they cannot edit. So depending on the level of access that you have in iTrak will allow you to perform or access certain functions. Do you have any questions on the incident or daily log?
No, like I said, it seems straightforward in terms of entry. I'll just end up having to go back and see how detailed or how much are we going to want to put in into the tool here. It looks like, you know, from a daily log perspective, you can go to just reporting a deficiency in the hotel, which is not really a liable incident.
Correct.
But are we using the tool to start to record all of those deficiencies? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure exactly the direction of, are we first just using this to record incidents for liability, or are we using it to track deficiencies as well?
Yeah, that's right. It all depends on how you want to utilize the tool. So you can utilize it to, you know, to as much as possible to basically whatever works for you in terms of best practices for your location. Each location uses the iTrak system in different manners.
Differently. So with the daily log, so I don't know if we ever went there, or maybe it's coming up. So an outstanding item such as a burnt out light bulb, like how does that reach the maintenance team?
You can inform, let me think. So depending on also the departments that have access to this iTrak, to the iTrak system. So if you're recording an item let's go back into there are notifications that can be set up based on the type of daily log that you have created. So for example, if it's a burnt out light bulb and you want to notify the maintenance department,
Yeah.
in your notifications section right here, I'm just going to jump from daily log to notification. You can create a report or notification log based on the type of daily log entry. So these are all the different ones that have been set up. So if you want to set up a notification to inform your maintenance team that there's been a light bulb that requires attention, you can create a live notification. Any live notification are entries that when you create a specific entry, it sends out a notification to a group right away.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you're creating a daily log based on any kind of maintenance type issues, you would select a live notification and give it a name. So you can call it maintenance issues, for example. You can put a description.
Okay.
And you can select the module where it will be created. So for the most part, it will be a daily log. So you're creating a daily log entry. And this is where you would select the type of action. So,
back in that daily log, was there a place where it's marked complete or file it?
There is a section where you can close the record once the entry is completed.
Okay.
This off and I'll go back. To the data log entry. And also remember to just hit the edit button when you reopen a daily log. That will re-enable all these fields.
Okay.
And in your status section here,
okay.
you select and can close it from there.
Gotcha.
So there are ways to inform specific groups or departments depending on what type of action it requires.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The briefing log, it's a pass down of information from one shift to the next. If you have an incident file that requires attention, and if it ports over from the morning shift to the afternoon shift, you can create a briefing log so that they can investigate it further. So you're passing down information from one shift to the next. To do that, if you have a specific incident file, let's use this as an example. The current status of this incident is open at the moment, but if it requires any follow-up, you can also select the status based on what it is that you're trying to capture. So if it requires any follow-up, it opens up a briefing log record where it will reference the incident number that requires that you need to pass down onto the next shift. So you can pass that on to the afternoon shift or evening shift, for example, and just enter the details. It's similar to an electronic, post-it notes or bulletin board. It's basically a form of electronic bulletin board where it allows you to pass down information from one shift to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Next 4 modules here are a collection of profiles, subjects being your hotel guests and patrons. Personnel are employees of the Hilton property, and contacts are vendors or delivery companies. You also have the vehicle module where you can capture, say if you're driving into work, you can capture your vehicle information. You have the make and model of the vehicle, the license plate. Also, this comes in handy if, for example, if you find a vehicle blocking an emergency exit. If you have that vehicle information recorded in your system, you can search for their license plate number, and you can identify the owner of that vehicle.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would be a lot of data to input.
Right. That's true. True. So you can capture the subject per individual basis, but however, the personnel, we can import that as a bulk import into your system. Same thing with contacts and vehicles. Reports, there are individual reporting tools in each of these modules, but under the reports category, you can select the topic as to which type of report you want to create. For example, if you want to create a report on your incidents, you can do a detailed list or a summary report, any savings and losses. You can also have a breakdown of the report by location, property, etc. So if you have a weekly meeting and you want to report on certain items or certain incidents, you can do that through the reporting tab. And you also have the lost and found module here. If someone reports an item missing or someone finds an item, if you're a housekeeping department finds an item in a hotel room that one of your guests may have left, so you can capture that in your lost and found. So you basically have a database of items that are found and items that are reported missing. How it tracks these items, depending on how much data or how accurate you are when you're recording your item. For example, in your found item, you have the what was found tab, so a description of the item that you find. And there's also different categories. Cell phones is one of the most common items that people find or people lose. So you have the cell phone category here, the color, the material. If you're keeping it in a specific storage location, you can specify that as well. And if the item was found in one of your guest rooms, you can enter that information as well. And you also have the manufacturer. Serial numbers that don't often have, but if you have it, the more information you record in your found item category will help you determine if that item has been found or if that item is sitting in your storage location. You can also match this record up to any of the items that are already recorded. So say you find an item and someone might have lost an item that they have reported. Click on the match button right here. Hold on, let me put the date. Let's release date the 10th. So right now there are no items in your database, but they may turn up at a later time. So what iTrak does, it creates a matching category where it gives it a rating or a score. So the higher the score is of that item, that's the likelihood of that item being the one that you're looking for. So when you click on match, it goes through the database of items, and it will give you a list of items that is currently sitting in your database, and the match score determines based on the data or based on the items that you enter in the description and the category, color, etc., gives it the score of that item. You may have items that are sitting in your storage area for quite some time. You can dispose of this item to a charity, to the employee that reported it, the person that found the item, to the hotel guest. So there's different ways to dispose of this item. Some places only keep certain items up to 1 month, because there could be a lot based on the size of your property. You don't want to keep these items forever. Once you have the item, you found the item and you're returning it to its rightful owner, the return function allows you to capture the ID of the person. You want to be able to make sure that they prove that they are the owner of the item, and you're returning it to either the person that reported it, or if one of your personnel lost an item, you're returning it to the personnel. So you're basically just selecting the name from the database. If you're selecting a subject or a contact and they're not in your database as of yet, you can create a profile for them, which will be saved in your subjects database. You can also have them sign for this item if you have a signature pad attached, or you can also have them sign using the mouse. So that way you have proof that they have signed for that item. Okay, so now that we have this item, someone now has reported this item missing. You're creating a new report, so under the category cell phone. And if there's any matching item in your found database, it will try and locate or scan under your found items, and it creates a score. If you think this is the right item, double-click that item. And if you have a picture of that item, you can easily identify if it's the right one. So it helps to have a description if there's any scratches or any, sometimes people use their picture or family picture as their main screensaver on their phone. You can put that in the description as well. So there's one way to identify the owner of this item. You can also return this item. Once you match the item, you can return this item. For the most part, iTrak is fairly straightforward to use, since you're selecting your item from the drop-downs, and most of the drop-down items are already pre-created, and you're basically just filling in the blanks for the rest of the information. And the last item here is dispatch. If you're dispatching a security officer to a specific activity, sometimes some properties bypass daily log and incident file altogether and use the dispatch, the iDispatch module to capture that information.
It's okay. It's okay. There's no officers here, so we're small enough.
Okay. So the daily log, incidents, incident file, and maybe briefing log are probably going to be the main 3 items that you will be using. Subjects, personnel, you can view limited information. It does capture any personal records. So let me just show you what the personnel screen looks like. So you have the general information, the first name and last name, the hire date, and the division and the department that they belong in, contact information. Some of the tabs that you will see here are the most common tabs. There are additional tabs here that contains any personal information on that individual, which you don't necessarily want to share with everyone. So it is limited depending on the level of access that you have. You can also import a picture of that person into your personnel profile.
Sure. Okay.
So that pretty much covers the main functionality of iTrak. But as soon as you receive your login, I'm not sure who will create or who the administrator is of your iTrak system. They will provide you with the login information for your particular or specific property and start using it. We do also have the iTrak Academy that allows you to go into each of these modules in depth. It's a video-based system that you can access from any of your browser. You can access it at your own time, which covers all of these items here. So if there's anything specific that you need to know, the video-based system will allow you to go through through the academy.
Awesome. All
right.
right.
If you have any questions, Marcel, let me know. I'll be happy to assist you with it, or you can send me your email address, and I will forward it to our administrator.
Okay.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate your time.
All right, thanks, Al. All right. Take care.
All right. No. Yeah, you as well. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye for now.